Days after Hassan Nasrallah was killed, his deputy in Hezbollah, Naim Qasim, spoke up today in a face-saving attempt and, of course, in a bid to boost the morale of his remaining group members. Qasim asked them to be reassured. Victory is our ally. We need a bit of patience. That's what he has said. He's also said that they are ready for any ground invasion by Israel. Now, even as Israel launched strikes against Houthis in Yemen today, United States President Joe Biden said that he will talk to Prime Minister Netanyahu for the prevention of a full-blown war, a fear, remember, that has been looming large since the October 7th attacks last year. But the statement of Biden, remember, comes after his first reaction on Nasrallah's death. He'd called the killing a measure of justice for the many victims of Nasrallah. As far as the casualties are concerned, the Lebanese Health Ministry documented at least 105 people killed around the country in Sunday's airstrikes. So far, remember, more than 1,030 people, including 156 women and 87 children, have been killed in less than 2 weeks. These numbers are as per Lebanon's health ministry. Take a listen to what Prime Minister Netanyahu said today to the people of Iran.
I speak a lot about the leaders of Iran, yet at this pivotal moment, I want to address you, the people of Iran. I want to do so directly, without filters, without middlemen. Every day, you see a regime that subjugates you make fiery speeches about defending Lebanon, defending Gaza. Yet every day, that regime plunges our region deeper into darkness and deeper into war. Every day, their puppets are eliminated. Ask Muhammad Dev. Ask Nasrallah. There is nowhere in the Middle East Israel cannot reach. There is nowhere we will not go to protect our people and protect our country. With every passing moment, the regime is bringing you, the noble Persian people, closer to the abyss. The vast majority of Iranians know their regime doesn't care a whit about them. If it did care, if it cared about you, it would stop wasting billions of dollars on futile wars across the Middle East. It would start improving your lives.
Meanwhile, Indian Prime Minister Narendra Modi spoke with his Israeli counterpart a short while back and said that it is crucial to prevent regional escalation and ensure the safe release of all hostages. India is committed to supporting efforts for an early restoration of peace and stability. So that's Prime Minister Modi talking with Prime Minister Netanyahu. Now, with this prevailing situation, several questions are now being asked. What happens to Hezbollah now? Why haven't other Islamic nations not outrightly supported Hezbollah in Iran yet? And for Prime Minister Netanyahu, has the war become a personal war against his domestic and global critics? To talk more on this and help us understand this entire situation better in West Asia, I'm joined by Dr. Eyal Pinko. He's a former senior intelligence officer, cyber and national security expert from Israel. I'm also joined by Ambassador Ashok Sajjanhar. Good evening, gentlemen. Namaskar. Welcome to Mirror Now. Dr. Pinko, I'd like to start with you. We've seen the developments in Iran happening in the West Asian region. There are, of course, fears of a larger escalation and a wider conflict in the entire region. But for Israel, the one reason that Israel gives is that it is their fight for survival. Now, there are Hezbollah members who've been targeted. Houthis have been targeted as well. But how far does Israel then plan to take this fight forward?
Yeah, I think it's very important to emphasize and to show that Israel is fighting for 1 year. For 1 year, Israel is fighting against 7 frontiers. The Houthis from Yemen are firing ballistic missiles, drones, and other munition against Israel, hitting Israeli cities. Hezbollah, in the last year, shot almost 10,000 missiles and rockets, 10,000 missiles and rockets towards Israeli cities, killed and injured more than 500 people, burned the fields. 60,000 Israelis are not living in their houses because of that. And of course, Iranian attacked Israel with ballistic missile, Hamas with the butcher and that they did, and slaughtering and rape children, women, 1,400 1 year ago. So Israel is fighting its war to maintain its peace, maintain his people. and we are fighting in 7 different arenas at the same time with those terrorists. Hamas, Hezbollah, Yemen Houthis, they are terrorists, and Israel will fight until it will be able to keep itself and the citizens in peace and quiet.
One of the arguments that your Prime Minister, Dr. Pinko, gives is that we will fight and Israel will fight until every Hezbollah and Houthi member is dead. But the fact of the matter is that, today we are seeing the top leadership of Hezbollah eliminated by Israeli forces. Tomorrow we'll see a new set of leadership being propped up, being trained to fight against Israel. When will this end?
It will end until there is some kind of ceasefire and all the 101 hostages, women, small children, and elder people will come back to Israel. Until they will not come back and peace will come to the region, nothing will stop, unfortunately. Hamas, the terror organization, doesn't want to give the hostages back. And you stated a very important thing, that they are replacing their leadership because everything is being driven by Iran. Iran is the head of these monstrous terror organizations, and until there will be no, some kind of shutting down Iran, this will continue, unfortunately.
Okay. You talked about ceasefire. I'm going to come to that a bit later, Dr. Pinko. Let me get in Ambassador Ashok Sajjanhar into this conversation. Ambassador Sajjanhar, this entire developments in the last few days has divided the world, has divided people even within the country. We have been seeing protests in solidarity with the killing. We're also seeing people saying that this was a terrorist who had to be killed. His hands had blood of innocent people from decades. How does one then view it? How does one view this entire escalation in the West Asian region, Nasrallah's death, and now, how Hezbollah will move forward? How does one really view this entire thing?
Yeah, thank you very much, Shreya, for having me. It all started really on the 7th of October, I think, as our Israeli friend has said, and also I think Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu has also mentioned this many times. And after that, since your question was directly related to Hezbollah, so Hezbollah started firing rockets and started sending missiles into the north of Israel. And, as was mentioned by the other panelist, he said 10,000 rockets have been fired, 60,000 people have been displaced. And I think the avowed objective of Israel is to be able to push Hezbollah back, because, this was the agreement in 2006 when the war stopped between Israel and Lebanon, that Hezbollah would disarm and would move back from the border with northern Israel. That Hezbollah did not do. And so I think what Israel is planning to do is make them move back so that they cease to pose a threat to the northern parts of Israel, so that its citizens can come there. Now, a very important point, Shreya, that you made is that although the war has been going on now for close to 1 year, Houthis have been firing, Hezbollah has been firing, Hamas fighters have been there in Gaza. But none of the other countries in the region have really got involved, except for criticizing, condemning, street demonstrations, making UN resolutions, because basically no one wants an escalation of the war. I think that is something that we need to understand, that none of the countries wants an escalation of the war. If you look at the past history, whether it is the Six-Day War in 1967...
And why is that, Ambassador Sajjanhar? I was coming to this point, in fact, and before you answer that question, Ambassador Sajjanhar, there are reports, and this is apparently a leaked conversation, it's circulating online, of Mohammed bin Salman, Saudi Arabia's crown prince, reportedly telling a US-based magazine in an interview, and this magazine is The Atlantic, saying that, when he was asked about whether he wants to get involved in the conflict, he said, "Do I care personally about the Palestinian issue? I don't, but my people do, so I need to make sure this is meaningful." Now, this is a leaked conversation. We don't know whether it's confirmed, but like you said, that Islamic nations haven't really come forward outrightly in support of this war. Why is that? Why doesn't West Asia and the Islamic nations want this, to happen for at least Palestine and Hamas and Hezbollah and the Houthis?
Yeah, no one wants a war. Everyone wants peace in that region because they have tasted the fruits of peace. And that is why they want. And in fact, you have seen the Abraham Accords. There were a large number of countries in West Asia who established diplomatic relations with Israel 4 years ago. And even Saudi Arabia was on the verge of establishing diplomatic relations with Israel when this October 7 attack happened. Actually, many analysts and commentators speculate that one of the basic reasons why the Hamas attacked at that time was to scuttle the entente, the ties between the two countries, Saudi Arabia and Israel, getting normalized. That is why they attacked. And one of the conditions of Saudi Arabia was, and they want to do it peacefully, they said that the Palestinians should also get their own land, should get their own territory. And once there was a commitment to that effect, they would have entered into diplomatic relations with Israel. You see, even as far as what was announced in September last year, the India, Middle East, Europe Economic Corridor, that goes from India, it goes through UAE, it goes through Saudi Arabia and Israel and Jordan. So none of these countries wants to engage in any conflict. Give me half a minute, and even by past experience, you look at the Six-Day War in 1967, you look at the Yom Kippur War, there were all these countries who had got together. It was Egypt, Jordan, Syria, Iraq. All of them, their armies had got together and attacked Israel. What happened? They were not able to prevail over Israel. So I think they have seen what the end of such a conflict is going to be. And we have seen over the last 50 years after that also. They know that it is a fruitless exercise. I think the only country which wants to instigate, incite war is Iran, and that is why it has all its proxies, whether it is Houthis, Hamas, Hezbollah, the Shias in Iraq and Syria. And I think that is where what the problem has been so far. Shreya.
Okay. Dr. Pinko, coming to you, you talked about ceasefire, and there are repetitive negotiations or conversations about having at least a few days temporary ceasefire so that, there can be some sort of resolution that can be approached, that can be reached. Now, Joe Biden, the President of the United States, has also said that he's going to be talking with the Israeli Prime Minister, Benjamin Netanyahu, to not escalate this further. Do you think your Prime Minister will be listening to somebody who has been the biggest supporter of Israel in the past over a year now since the attack happened, and this will not go further?
First, I would like to thank the Honorable Ambassador, because I think he said the truth and the real situation over there. Somebody from the US asked me in one TV interview why Israel is committing terror attacks against the Hezbollah terror organization. I think that now to cease fire, it will be a very bad situation, a very bad decision from military perspective, because, for any kind of military strategy, once your enemy is losing his backbone, you need to act and to react in order to get it out, in order to eliminate it. And we speak about a terror organization, not on a country. So I think from the military perspective, it will be a huge mistake to stop the war now. From the American perspective, Biden goes to, and Kamala Harris are going to election very soon. It's in the mid of November, and they want the Muslim Brotherhood voices with them. They will lose the election if they will not take the Muslim Brotherhood, which is a very powerful movement in the US. So they want really to have a peace and no escalation, that they will go like winners to the election. And there is a huge pressure on the Israeli government, as you said, for doing that because of this reason. This is a political, purely political reason. And as the Honorable Ambassador said, everybody is looking from a side, waiting for Israel to take out those terror organizations which are affecting the whole region, including Saudi Arabia and Egypt. So I don't know what the Israeli Prime Minister will do. I hope, for the sake and for the peace of the region, that the war will continue until Hezbollah will get out.
You know, a lot of people also say, Dr. Pinko, that whatever has been done in the past few months, perhaps, by Israel, has a lot to do with the kind of domestic pressures that Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu had been facing regarding hostages, all of the hostages not being returned, and the kind of ground situation that prevailed between Hamas and Israel. That plus the international pressure, of course, from the United Nations and other countries, including the US, coming in on him to stop the war, has led him to sort of escalate this and take this forward into a larger violent sort of situation. And now look at him. Now he's being celebrated as a hero, as somebody, who is the savior of Israel, who is the eliminator of terror groups across the world, somebody who is, championing the cause of counterterrorism.
The best way to describe it is just to imagine that New Delhi will suffer every day from 200 to 300 rockets being hit in New Delhi. This is an insane situation. So in the last year, Hezbollah fired almost 10,000 rockets per day. And in Israel, people say, "Oh, we are used to that. It's okay. It's okay to get hit." Dozens of cities were hit, and people because of those rockets. So one of the tricks and one of the things that the move that Iran did in order to go to ceasefire and to release Hamas from the war is by pressuring from the Houthis from Yemen, from the south, and from Hezbollah from the north, and attacking Israel again and again, day by day, in order to put pressure on Netanyahu to ceasefire. And I think that he made a very good job in resisting this international pressure and the military pressure that we are suffering from all sides, even from Iran. Only from the sea we don't get attacked, for now, at least. So he did a lot in order to to go into a situation that we can have the hostages back, 100 people under captivity, under Hamas captivity.
All right, we'll leave it there. Dr. Pinko and Ambassador Sajjanhar, thank you very much to both of you gentlemen for joining us tonight and sharing your perspectives. Hopefully peace will prevail soon and there will be an end to the kind of violence and bloodshed that we have witnessed in almost a year now. Thank you very much to both of you for joining us.